Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that's causing a lot of noise and, frankly, quite a few headaches in the online marketing world right now, especially as we're navigating, the digital space here in 2025. Everything feels like it's changing faster than ever, particularly with AI becoming so integrated.
Absolutely.
We're going to pull back the curtain a bit on the, let's say, shadowy side of SEO, black hat tactics.
That's right. And, we've been looking really closely at the data, pulling together insights from various sources.
Sure.
From our perspective here at Gilmedia, our goal today is to really unpack what black hat SEO looks like in this AI-driven age.
Okay.
We want to dig into why, despite these massive risks we hear about, it still tempts some businesses, and crucially, explore the true costs and why we firmly believe that focusing on legitimate white hat strategies is just absolutely critical for success today.
Okay, right. So let's unpack this then. We're sort of peering into the darker corners, not to linger there, but really to understand what's happening so you listening can recognize it, avoid falling into those traps, and really focus your energy on building something genuinely valuable and, well, sustainable online.
Exactly. And the landscape in 2025, it's incredibly high stakes.
So setting the scene a bit, what does black hat SEO even mean now in 2025?
Yeah.
Has it changed much compared to just, say, a few years back? What we're seeing suggests it's definitely gotten more sophisticated, but maybe the game has shifted dramatically in Google's favor.
That's a really crucial point. The speed and the intelligence of AI detection, especially by search engines like Google, have increased, well, exponentially.
Right.
Let's maybe take AI-powered cloaking as an example. You know that technique where you show one thing to the search engine bot and something totally different, usually spammy, to a real person?
Yeah, another one.
Well, back maybe in 2020, our data kind of suggested you might get away with that for, 6 to 8 months before getting caught now. What we're seeing is detection and penalties hitting in as little as 3 to 5 weeks on average.
Wow. Okay, so your whole strategy could have a shelf life shorter than a quick holiday break. That's the new reality Google's AI is creating, isn't it?
Precisely. The systems are just learning at a phenomenal rate. They're trained by billions, literally billions, of user interactions every single day. Every search, every click, every time someone bounces off a page. It all teaches them.
And when those penalties do hit, it's not just like a little slap on the wrist or a slight dip in your rankings anymore, is it?
No, it's far more severe now. What we're consistently seeing are consequences that can genuinely erase a business's entire online presence almost overnight.
Oof.
We're talking about complete de-indexing gone from Google search, manual actions that publicly flag your site, and in the really bad cases, permanent bans. Yeah. And when you think about Google handling something like 5.6 billion searches every single day, the sheer scale of their data processing means their detection capabilities are just extraordinarily intelligent. They cover vast swaths of the web. It's really not a system you can reliably trick anymore.
And the irony here is, well, it's quite something. We know AI tools are incredibly powerful for legitimate marketing tasks, right?
Yep.
Speeding up research, analyzing data, helping draft content outlines.
Definitely.
But these same powerful tools are also being weaponized by what one report called the digital desperados to scale up their manipulation tactics.
Yeah, and this brings up a really interesting point. If AI is helping Google detect spam, how are people actually using it for black hat?
Right, how does that work?
Well, they're essentially trying to fight AI with AI. They leverage it for, mass content generation, building these complex deceptive systems that try to mimic human behavior, but on a massive scale. They're attempting to blend into the background, hoping detection won't catch up immediately.
So it's like trying to outsmart the system with its own tools.
Kind of. It's like taking, a Formula One car, this peak piece of engineering designed for speed and precision, and using it to deliberately run a red light at full speed. Technically, yeah, it's capable, but it's completely misaligned with the purpose, and ultimately it's just self-destructive.
Okay, let's dive into some of the specific tactics then. What's in this modern black hat arsenal that we're seeing? First up, something that feels like an AI-powered version of an old, really annoying problem.
Yes, that would likely be AI-generated content spam. This is essentially the new, maybe slightly shinier form of keyword stuffing.
Oh, okay.
People are using AI tools to just rapidly produce enormous volumes of really low-quality content. Now, on the surface, initially, it might look like it was written by a human. It might have, reasonable grammar, decent sentence structure.
Right. It can look plausible at first glance.
Exactly. But fundamentally, it lacks depth. It lacks originality or a unique perspective or any real value for the reader. The whole goal is just speed, generate hundreds, thousands of articles really quickly, hoping to fool the initial algorithmic scans before they get flagged as, well, worthless.
But Google's getting incredibly good now at seeing through that superficial appearance, right? Spotting the lack of genuine value. I think I saw some data pointing to a case where a site using this method got something like 830,000 monthly visits from Google search, only to completely vanish. Like, poof, gone after an algorithm update, specifically targeted this kind of stuff.
That example, yeah, it highlights the risk perfectly. Google's algorithms, especially now powered by AI, are increasingly designed to prioritize value, real value, and positive user experience, content that's just churned out to hit keywords without any real human insight or expertise behind it simply fails that core test.
So the appeal is speed, but the risk is just massive.
Enormous. The potential fall is huge.
Okay, what about parasite SEO? That name alone sounds, well, parasitic.
Yeah.
Kind of creepy.
It's pretty fitting, actually, in a digital sense. This technique involves publishing heavily optimized content, often stuffed with affiliate links, on high-authority third-party platforms.
Like which ones?
Think sites like Medium, maybe LinkedIn Pulse, Quora, even sometimes forums or comment sections on reputable news sites. Data we've seen suggests this tactic now drives a really significant portion, maybe around 42% of black hat traffic, particularly for affiliate marketers.
So they're basically leveraging the trust and the authority of these big established platforms instead of building up their own site's reputation.
Exactly that. They're borrowing reputation without earning it. They use someone else's established standing to try and rank their own, often lower quality content. It gives them a sort of plausible deniability and lets them piggyback on existing domain authority. It's almost like digital gentrification, if you will, leveraging valuable digital real estate that others built.
Huh. Okay. And private blog networks, PBNs, I kind of remember those being a big target for Google years and years ago. Are they still actually a thing in 2025?
Oh, they're definitely still around. They've evolved, though. Think of them like a persistent digital zombie. They keep coming back in slightly different forms.
Yeah. So how do they work now?
Modern PBNs are much more sophisticated than the old ones. They hunt for and acquire expired domains that had, good historical backlink profiles, trying to inherit that link juice or authority.
Well,
They try to host these sites across multiple different IP addresses, different hosting providers, to avoid leaving obvious footprints. And they attempt to create seemingly legitimate-looking content on these network sites to try and mask their real purpose, which is just funneling links to a primary money site.
wow. Sounds like they're still pouring a lot of resources into making these things look legit.
They really are. Some reports indicate these tiered link farms, often marketed quite deceptively, still account for maybe hundreds of millions, like 200 million plus annually for some black hat operations.
There's always a but with these things.
Exactly. But, and this is crucial, in 2025, Google's pattern recognition, largely thanks to AI, is far, far more advanced now. They are much better at spotting the unnatural connections, the footprint of link schemes, the patterns that reveal the network's true manipulative intent. So the financial investment needed to build and maintain a PDN today comes with a significantly higher risk of detection and penalty than ever before.
Got it. Okay. Finally, in this lovely arsenal, advanced cloaking. That just sounds overtly technical and, well, deceptive by its very definition.
It really is the epitome of deception in SEO. It's literally showing different content to the search engine crawler, the bot, than you show to a human user who visits your page.
And how has that evolved?
It's way beyond simple redirects now. Modern cloaking often uses machine learning techniques to try and predict and evade detection dynamically. It might employ sophisticated JavaScript to hide content only from known bot user agents, or constantly monitor algorithm updates in real time to try and stay one step ahead.
Sounds complex.
The technical skill required is definitely high, but ultimately it's just a digital house of cards built on a foundation of pure deceit. It's inherently unstable.
So, okay, with all these, frankly, quite sophisticated black hat tactics being deployed, how is Google actually fighting back? What's the defense mechanism against this AI-powered dark side?
Well, Google's primary defense system here is something called Spam Brain. You can think of it as Google's highly sophisticated AI-powered detective force. It's designed specifically to identify and penalize spam, often in real time.
Spam brain, okay. How does it work differently than older systems?
Unlike older, maybe more rule-based systems that just looked for known spammy phrases or exact match links, SpamBrain uses AI and machine learning to identify anomalies, unusual user behavior patterns, weird fluctuations in content, unnatural-looking link profiles.
So it's looking for things that just don't seem right.
Exactly. It's constantly learning, piecing together clues from these vast amounts of data to spot manipulation, even if it's never seen that exact trick before.
And we saw the power of this AI-driven sort of algorithmic justice demonstrated very clearly not too long ago, didn't we? With the March 2024 core update.
Absolutely. That update, which rolled out over about 45 days, finishing up in April 2024, was a really significant event in the SEO world.
Yeah.
From what we observed and the data Google released afterwards, it was very much a precision strike. It explicitly targeted low-quality, unoriginal, and manipulative content, very much including sites that were using AI-generated content at scale without adding significant value. Google actually stated these updates resulted in a 45% reduction in low-quality, unoriginal content appearing in search results. They actually exceeded their initial goals.
We definitely saw the ripples, maybe even waves from that here at Gilmedia. A lot of sites that seem to be relying on those quick fix, maybe AI-heavy tactics seem to just disappear almost overnight.
They really did. And independent research, like some analysis from originality.ai, corroborated this. It showed sites identified as using significant amounts of AI-generated content, sometimes even just partially, faced really heavy penalties or were completely de-indexed. Gone.
Wow.
The psychological impact on those businesses was immense. And the path to recovery, well, it's proving to be incredibly long and arduous, often taking months, maybe even years, with absolutely no guarantee of ever fully regaining their previous standing in search. It was a very clear, very public message that trying to game the system is becoming increasingly precarious.
So, okay, let's talk about the why then. Knowing these severe risks, the high likelihood of eventually getting caught by systems like SpamBrain, and the absolutely devastating consequences we've just discussed, why do seemingly intelligent business owners or marketers still turn to black hat techniques? What's the psychology driving that kind of gamble?
It's a question we grapple with, too, when we see businesses making these choices. Our insights, looking at various analyses, suggest it's often driven by just the immense pressure of the current digital landscape.
Pressure for results.
Yeah, pressure for quick results. Legitimate white hat SEO strategies, building real authority, creating truly valuable content, earning high quality links. Naturally, it takes time. Sometimes, honestly, a lot of time. And in a world driven by real-time analytics, this demand for instant gratification and constant pressure to show ROI, especially when maybe you see competitors appearing to rise quickly, well, the temptation for those rapid ranking improvements just becomes overwhelming for some.
The classic white hat just takes too long argument. That feeling of needing results now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
As one analysis we looked at put it pretty bluntly, something like, there's no other way to cut it, SEO is a slow game, and if you don't have the time or money to wait, you can't make it work. That perceived lack of time or maybe budget pushes people towards those risky shortcuts.
Anything else driving it?
Well, there's also maybe the just this once thinking, the gambler's fallacy. Thinking they can use an aggressive tactic to get a quick boost and then, clean it up later before getting caught.
Which rarely works out.
Right. And honestly, sometimes people genuinely aren't fully aware that certain tactics they're employing, maybe based on outdated advice or some aggressive agency pitch, are actually considered black hat or are at best deep in that risky gray area. The industry spectrum can sometimes make it easy to rationalize increasingly aggressive tactics until suddenly you've crossed a line without fully realizing the cliff edge you're standing on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, this deep dive also touched on the connection between black hat SEO and web design. How do those two clash? Because it feels like they really should be working together, right?
They absolutely should work together. And they do, in legitimate strategies. From our perspective here at Gilmedia, good SEO and good web design are fundamentally symbiotic. They share the same core goal. Prioritize the user experience, make the site accessible, and create genuine value for visitors. They work hand in hand to build a strong, trustworthy online presence.
Okay, so how does black hat mess that up?
Black hat often views web design as merely cosmetic, just window dressing. Or worse, it sees design as another tool for manipulation.
Like using design tricks to hide text from users while still showing it to search engine bots, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Or think about the classic doorway page. It's designed purely to rank for specific keywords in search engines, but the moment a user clicks, they're immediately redirected elsewhere. often to something completely unrelated or spammy. It focuses only on the ranking signal, completely ignoring the actual human visitor's experience.
And that's becoming more problematic now because Google is looking more at user experience signals, right? Things like Core Web Vitals, page speed, interactivity, visual stability, and overall user engagement metrics.
Precisely. These are things that good, user-centered design naturally supports and optimizes for.
Which Black Hat practitioners often just ignore.
They typically ignore these foundational elements in favor of quick, manipulative fixes. And this leads straight into what's sometimes called the user experience paradox.
Okay, what's that?
Black hat tactics might, maybe for a brief window, get you ranked. But because the content is poor quality, the links are spammy, or the design is manipulative, users who actually arrive on the site have a terrible experience. They bounce quickly, they don't engage.
And those are signals Google sees.
Yes. While UX itself isn't maybe a single direct ranking factor in isolation, all those poor engagement metrics, high bounce rates, low time on site, low conversions signal to search engines that your site isn't satisfying user intent. And that ultimately leads to ranking drops anyway. So it becomes this completely self-defeating cycle.
Okay, let's really try and hammer home the real cost of playing with this kind of digital fire. Beyond just losing your rankings, which is bad enough, what are the true consequences we're seeing businesses face?
The financial costs are, well, they can be substantial and are often completely overlooked initially. It's not just the lost revenue from organic traffic, though that can be crippling on its own.
Wait.
We're talking about potential lawsuits, maybe arising from deceptive practices like fake reviews or copyright infringement if they've been scraping content, or perhaps violating advertising standards with misleading claims.
Legal trouble on top of everything else.
Exactly. And then there's the cost of recovery. If you get hit with a major Google penalty, digging yourself out, if it's even fully possible, can take many, many months, sometimes years. And during that time, the lost revenue continues to pile up. Plus, you have the direct cost of professional remediation efforts.
That example we came across was pretty stark. A site losing, say, 100,000 monthly organic visitors, even with a relatively modest 2% conversion rate and maybe a $50 average order value. That's $100,000 every month in direct revenue just gone from search. That kind of hit can easily close businesses down.
It really, really can. And if you need to hire SEO experts, maybe like us at Gilmedia, to help you diagnose the issues, clean up the mess, and plead your case to Google, well, remediation for complex enterprise-level sites can easily cost anywhere from, say, $50,000 to $200,000 or even more. And there's absolutely no guarantee of a full recovery back to previous levels. Those costs stack up incredibly fast.
And then there's the damage that's maybe harder to put a dollar figure on, but just as devastating, the damage to your brand's reputation.
Oh, that's often the hardest part to recover from, isn't it? Users today are savvier than ever before. If they land on a site that feels spammy or deceptive or just plain low quality, that destroys trust instantly.
And word gets around.
Exactly. In today's hyper-connected world, bad user experiences and negative perceptions spread like wildfire through social media, review sites, forums. The viral damage from a poor online experience or being caught engaging in deceptive practices can be far more lasting and widespread than any specific search engine penalty. Your brand integrity is constantly on the line.
So if we take a step back and look at the big picture, especially factoring in the increasing power of AI, it really feels like Black Hat SEO is just fighting an ultimately unwinnable battle against Google's constantly evolving intelligence, doesn't it?
That's really the core truth that all the data points towards. Black hat tactics are fundamentally trying to outsmart these infinitely learning AI systems that are being trained and refined by billions of users every single day.
Yeah.
Every search query someone types, every link they click, every minute they spend engaging with a page, every return visit, it all feeds Google's system. It teaches it relentlessly to better understand genuine value versus artificial manipulation. You simply cannot consistently outsmart a system that has effectively perfect memory, never sleeps, and is constantly learning from the collective behavior of humanity online. It's an arms race you're destined to lose.
So given that, what is the alternative? What's the strategic approach that we advocate for, that we practice here at Gilmedia?
It's simple, really. White hat SEO. And the key thing now, in 2025, is that it's no longer just the ethical choice, it is demonstrably the strategic choice.
How so?
Because it builds sustainable competitive advantages. Advantages that aren't reliant on exploiting temporary loopholes and that actually compound over time. Instead of trying to trick the algorithm with, say, keyword-stuffed AI content. You focus on creating genuinely high-quality, user-focused content. Content that offers real value, unique insights, answers questions thoroughly, and demonstrates genuine expertise and depth.
And AI isn't just a tool for the dark side, right?
Yeah.
It can actually be a powerful ally for white hat strategies, too.
Absolutely. That's where the real power of AI lies for legitimate marketers. You use AI ethically. Use it for generating topic ideas, for conducting rigorous keyword research to understand exactly what problems your audience is trying to solve, for in-depth competitor analysis, and yes, to dramatically speed up legitimate content marketing workflows.
Like drafting outlines or summarizing research.
Exactly. Drafting outlines, summarizing complex research, helping optimize existing content for clarity or search intent. But, and this is the crucial distinction, you don't just hit a button and use it to churn out word-for-word blog posts or articles, because, as we've seen, search engines are getting very good at spotting and penalizing that kind of fluffy, low-value, unoriginal content anyway. AI, when used correctly, is an incredibly powerful tool that helps white hat practitioners build better, more authoritative digital assets faster.
And the data we're seeing suggests AI detection capabilities will only continue to accelerate, making that gap between the fleeting, risky effectiveness of black hat and the compounding long-term advantage of white hat even wider over time.
Precisely. The whole future trajectory of search. Think about voice search. AI-generated answer summaries directly in results, increasingly personalized results. It all points towards a continued and increasing emphasis on valuing user experience, genuine expertise, authority, and trust, EEAT, above all else. The fundamental economic reality is shifting. The risk-adjusted return on investment for white hat strategies is becoming increasingly attractive compared to the high-risk, potentially ruinous gamble of black hat tactics.
Okay, one last crucial question.
Yeah.
If someone listening has maybe dipped their toes into black hat techniques in the past, perhaps unknowingly or maybe out of desperation,
Yes.
is recovery actually possible? Can you come back from that kind of penalty or bad practice?
Yes, there's definitely hope if you've made mistakes in the past. While it's certainly difficult and often quite demanding, recovery is possible.
What does it involve?
It requires, first and foremost, a very honest and thorough assessment of exactly what went wrong. Then it's a comprehensive, sometimes painful, rehabilitation process. This typically means identifying and systematically removing any illicit or low-quality content, carefully disavowing toxic or unnatural links that point to your site, potentially rebuilding parts of your core site architecture for better user experience and crawlability, and fundamentally changing your entire approach to demonstrate a clear, sustained commitment to quality and user value to Google over a significant period of time.
So it's not a quick fix.
Definitely not. It's time-consuming, it requires significant effort and often investment. But any effort and investment put into developing a genuinely legitimate, user-focused web presence is, in our experience, ultimately well-rewarded in the long run. It builds a foundation you can actually rely on.
And it seems like, at the end of the day, it always comes back to the human element, doesn't it?
Right.
Who are search engines ultimately trying to serve?
Ultimately, yes, that's the core principle. Search engines are built to serve human users. Their goal is to help people find the best, most relevant, most trustworthy information or solutions available.
Right.
This means that the most effective, most sustainable SEO strategies, especially here in 2025 and beyond, are inevitably the ones that genuinely serve human needs and solve human problems. Black hat tactics fundamentally ignore or even actively work against user interests for short-term gain.
What is a white hat?
White hat strategies, and this is central to our philosophy at Gilmedia, are all about aligning your business objectives with user needs. When your site ranks highly because it's genuinely helpful, informative, trustworthy, and provides real value, then everybody wins. Users find what they're looking for, search engines fulfill their purpose effectively, and you build a sustainable, resilient business that can weather future changes.
There's probably a satisfaction in that too, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And honestly, there's a significant satisfaction factor there too, taking pride in building something genuinely useful and valuable, rather than just constantly trying to game a system. That kind of satisfaction, that sense of purpose, is what sustains long-term success in a way that chasing the next algorithmic loophole never, ever can.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive really makes it incredibly clear, doesn't it? The choice between black hat and white hat SEO in 2025 isn't just about managing risk anymore. It's fundamentally about the kind of digital business and the kind of online presence you actually want to build in this AI-driven world.
Black hat today isn't just unsustainable, it's actively harmful. The analogy that kind of sticks in my mind is like using a flamethrower in a digital rainforest. Yeah, you might clear a small path incredibly quickly, but the collateral damage to the surrounding digital ecosystem is widespread. The system itself inevitably fights back with increasing intelligence and force, and the long-term consequences, like getting totally de-indexed, can be devastating and irreversible.
Hmm.
White hat, on the other hand, is much more like cultivating a digital garden. You're building valuable assets on strong foundations of trust, genuine value, and real service to the user. These are foundations that can actually weather algorithmic shifts and competitive pressures because they're built on something real and enduring.
It definitely requires that patience, that consistent effort we talked about, but it clearly creates those sustainable competitive advantages that compound over time, year after year. Those flashy shortcuts might look tempting in the moment, but they almost always seem to lead to dead ends, and often very expensive ones at that.
Exactly. From our perspective here at Gilmedia, focusing relentlessly on legitimate, ethical, white hat techniques that are truly aligned with user needs isn't just, best practice anymore. It's absolutely essential for both survival and achieving long-term prosperity in this rapidly evolving AI-powered digital landscape. There's really no other sustainable path forward.
So maybe the takeaway for everyone listening is, next time you encounter a promise of those super quick SEO fixes or guaranteed overnight results, just remember the very real costs and risks we've discussed today. And maybe consider the fact that doing things the right way, the patient, value-driven, white hat way, might just be the most revolutionary and truly effective approach of all here in 2025.
That's a truly provocative thought, isn't it? Something for you to mull over as you continue to build your presence in this digital world.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the realities of Black Hat SEO in the AI age. We'll see you on the next one.